Hello and welcome to Bits and Atoms, the Grisham Robotics Founder Series. I'm your host, Elias Can, and today I've got Rita Kastrati, co-founder and CEO of Pioneering People, joining me. To get started, Rita, would you mind sharing a quick intro about you and Pioneering People?
Absolutely. Really excited to be here. So as you said, I'm Rita, founder and CEO of Pioneering People, and I come from the world of hospitality. I grew up in it and experienced all the 7-day weeks and pain points which come with this industry. When I had to jump into shifts, order a taxi and be there in 10 minutes, I was always thinking, why is there a platform where the restaurant can actually just jump into a platform and order somebody to come in and help? Why is it always me? Yet when we live in a generation that values autonomy and that values speed, it just seemed like when a company needed somebody instantly, the whole system broke. So after a while of working in other startups, I decided to put this together and try to reshape the gig economy. So in short, what we do is exactly what I've always wanted it to do, which is matchmake people to instant temporary jobs and also pay them on the day and above living wage.
Very nice. And I think can kind of get a sense for maybe my first question here, but would love to also get a little bit more in terms of you personally as well. What originally kind of motivated you to go the entrepreneurship route? Like what inspired you to become a founder originally?
Yeah, I think I've always, because I grew up with two entrepreneurial parents and seeing that day in, day out, for me, I didn't even know the term startup until after I finished university. I just knew that like running a business was kind of just what people did. So it was always kind of in the back of my head. But I graduated in the pandemic and I was meant to work in the corporate world, but visas got cancelled, grad jobs got cancelled. And actually it was the best thing that happened to me. I went from having this whole career planned out to everything cancelled and looking back and saying, well, that thing I always saw growing up, that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, I guess that is just the world that I'm going to end up in. So I kind of went from having a corporate career planned out to I ended up working in a startup. I really, really enjoyed that experience. It was an incredible experience. And then I feel like I learned so much along the way. I thought, well, I've still got a problem that I'd love to solve. Let's see what tech can do and if we can really scale it out. So yeah, I guess that's kind of my route. Is I saw it, I lived it, I tried to do something else, it didn't work out, and then I fell back into it.
Absolutely. And I think that's common what we hear on our side a lot from other founders as well, is that, maybe it's not the first venture or first thing that they try that necessarily works, but they love the energy, they love having the ability to drive success and outcomes. And so that kind of leads them into wanting to be a founder again. And we see a lot of serial entrepreneurs and similar sentiments there. So that's great to hear from you. And for the gig work side specifically, you had mentioned seeing some issues there before. Is that kind of what led you into kind of the core thesis around Pioneering People and what you wanted to work on here?
Absolutely, absolutely. So whilst at university, I think like a lot of students, I just wanted to make some quick cash, work at different events that sounded fun and go and spend it on partying. But actually all the agencies that I worked for and all the gig economy stuff that I did was I was getting basically charged massive fees to work at those events. All the, clothes I had to buy for it and the travel I had to pay for it was barely being covered by the amount of money I was making from it. It was super unfair. Conditions were terrible. The amount of times I turned up to an event and nobody even knew who I was, like they just didn't even know that the gig economy was being like used to work those events was ridiculous. So it was always a thing where I thought, well, you know what? Giving people access to instant temporary cash is important. Yes, okay, fine. Some students might need it for partying, but there's other people out there that need to cover their bills, or, it's the end of the month. They don't want to get a payday loan. They have time to make more money, but they just can't. So for me, I kind of looked around, I did my research, and there didn't seem to be a platform that I could log in on a Friday night and get paid Saturday morning. So it was always in the back of my mind as something that I really wanted to do. I didn't really understand how to do it. So I was lucky enough to have that experience in another startup to see how to scale a business and a tech startup, to then go ahead and say, well, that thing I've been thinking about, it's been 4 or 5 years, no one's done anything about it, I can go back to it. So yeah, I guess a lot of luck and learning along the way, but frustration as well from my end of not being able to find a platform that did what I wanted it to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think interesting origin as well, that you're a uni student that wanted some extra money, so you kind of got your hands dirty and got that early experience as well. And you touched on the agency piece, and maybe for folks who are less familiar with the gig work economy today, are agencies essentially the main drivers? Are there other platforms folks might use, or is it kind of bare there in terms of like what the status quo options have been historically?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really mainly is agencies that really do that matchmaking between companies, especially event staff, hospitality, etc., to people. But obviously the way that that kind of happens at the moment is stuck like it was 20 years ago. So not much has changed. I feel like the world has changed where, plugging people in and out from jobs, working ad hoc, having 3 different side hustles has become normal, especially post-pandemic, whereas the systems that we're using to do that are the ones that were built 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. So I just really feel like what we're trying to do and trying to reshape the gig economy is something that's not so much like that would be quite nice. It's a kind of violent need, not just for the hospitality industry, but for many industries where it can get to the end of the quarter or the end of a cohort, for example, and you need a photographer to come in for the demo day, someone to check in jackets, someone to do the admin. That's where you bring the gig economy in. So we do have a range of businesses signed up for pioneering people, from your local cafe to London Marathon events, which is one of the biggest marathons in the world, all the way through to investment funds that need the ad hoc staff to plug around and do different things. So yeah, I think we've really seen the breadth of what we can touch and who we can help, as well as the type of businesses that we can help as well.
Absolutely. And I think you bring up a good point here as well, in that, you're not just serving the end workers who are looking for opportunities, but it's also about making the relationship with the business and making sure that their needs are being filled as well. And maybe that segues a bit into a question too, that I'm curious always about when folks are building marketplaces in any dynamic, because it's, there's a supply side and there's a demand side. For you with Pioneering People, how did you kind of overcome that cold start problem where, which side do you focus on, the demand or the supply to get started? What did that look like for you?
For us, actually, the main thing was to really have the supply side, because what we were hearing post-pandemic, post-Brexit, post a lot of things, especially that happened in the UK economy, is there are no workers. And I wanted to say, well, you're all wrong, and I'm going to prove you wrong. So what we wanted to do is kind of build almost an army of people ready to go, have them on there, and then turn around to the companies and say, that problem that you've been facing since you started your business, well, we can solve that for you. So that's really what we focused on, and we grew a lot quicker than expected. We expected around 300 verified workers in the first year and 900 in the second year. We actually ended our second year on about 9,000 workers. So a ton more than we expected. And I said to everyone, it's almost like we built a tent and it started ripping at the sides because we filled it with too many people. So we've recently just, restructured a couple of things in our technology and just released a new front end and back end, which has been a heck of a journey, but really amazing to see that our biggest problem is growing pains, where we're growing a lot quicker than we anticipated. So keeping up with that has been really, really interesting.
Yeah. And I really like that tent analogy that you give as well, because I think it's fun, but it's also very visual. Like you can just kind of picture it in your mind when you mentioned it, just pulling at the seams of so many people coming in.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, that you had to make some product changes, because I think as well here, like maybe something to kind of go a little bit further on is that it needs to be a UI that works both for the end worker, but as well for the business. Maybe thinking about the end worker a little bit more, like how do you position Pioneering People to them? Like what do you usually see as like the main draw for folks to sign up for work here?
I would really say is the fact that we give them access to instant cash. You can have the most beautiful platform on earth and something that's really fun and easy to use, but at the end of the day, what they come to you for is money. And a lot of us don't really work behind a bar or clean up a restaurant for 4 hours on a weekend because we love doing it. We do it because we want access to that community, we want access to that experience, but also at the end of the day, the paycheck that comes with it. And the quicker that it comes in, the happier you are, because it's not a career. We're not building out careers, but we're skill stacking. So they're learning on the go. They're doing a couple of hours a week here and there, and they're being paid for it consistently. So it means that they can focus on their dreams, whether that's studying, whether that's a career, or whether it just is they want to have that portfolio career and spend every single day doing something different. We want to give them access to that. And it just seems like, so many of the systems that we live in and work in are all about that career and that longevity and being kind of stuck somewhere, which is beautiful and wonderful in itself, but it doesn't seem like that's what everybody wants anymore. So we've kind of given them that opportunity to branch out, do that if they want to do that, or stick to their 9 to 5s. And then if they find it boring because they're only sitting at a desk and speaking to 4 people every day, they can go on Pioneering People and meet a ton of new people every single evening or every single weekend if they'd like to.
Yep. And I feel like I keep hearing more and more about that term that you mentioned, kind of like the portfolio career, as opposed to in the past, stay one place, work your way up 20 years plus. It's kind of your full professional career in one spot. Now it's even more fragmented, where it might not even be one job. It could be many in parallel that you're working at the same time. And it seems like for Gen Z, that's a big trend. And I'm sure as Gen Alpha kind of starts to age up a bit more as well, we'll probably continue to see that. So yeah, very interesting. And maybe one last question here, and just to switch gears a little bit, talking about the fundraising side for you, what's kind of been some of your better strategies for finding potential investors? Any kind of tips or tricks that have worked well for you so far? Just curious how that fundraising side and process looks like for you.
Absolutely. I think the main thing really has been focusing on the fact that investors are people. I think people forget that. Founders just think they're this completely separate entity. They don't have emotions. They don't get it. But, when I've kind of removed the facade that I thought that they wanted to see and just was myself and was like, look, I'm doing this for teenage me. I'm doing this for when I was running my parents' restaurant 7 days a week and all I wanted was a day off. That's when I tapped into people that really got me. And on the flip side, we've turned a lot of clients into investors where they've had an amazing experience and went, I can really help you and I can introduce you to X, Y, Z. And then they went, hold on, I kind of want to own a bit of it because I can really help you grow. And for us, there's been a beautiful experience of someone that's never invested before, never put their money in anything before, goes, well, I already spend my money with you. I might as well invest in you and see that circular loop. So I don't think that happens very, very often with startups, but I really urge anyone who's looking at fundraising, already has their first initial customers, to see if they want to get on board and actually be not only one of the first customers, but one of your first backers. So for us, that's been a really interesting journey. A lot easier than doing lots of cold emailing and hoping for the best, but also makes people a stickier customer. If they're your investor, they're more likely to use you above everything else. So yeah, that's kind of been my top tip and something that I've learned a lot, especially in the last 6 months.
Yeah, amazing. And it definitely is, like you said, some kind of lock-in where they're both the customer and they're the investor, and now they don't want to leave because there's multiple ties that they have to the business. But it also is a great, I'm sure, validation point to other prospective customers or investors to say, hey, so and so initially started working with us as a client and now they're an investor as well. And so it's a great narrative piece that you can spin to other potential customers, other potential investors. It works really well both ways.
Precisely. I mean, yeah, like you said, it's also helped a lot in terms of even a marketing piece. So if you can, show that trust, it's not only do they use me, they want to back me and they want to be on that journey. it shows the stickiness of the user without even having to kind of sell it to them to stay on. It's like, well, how are you keeping users on your platform? Like, well, they're investing, so they're here for the long run. So yeah, that's been a really wonderful journey for us.
Amazing. Amazing. And with that, we're at time. And so I want to thank you, Rita, for joining today on Bits and Atoms. It was great to have you. I'll let you get back to building, and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll speak to you soon.